This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Israel announces an historic maritime agreement with Lebanon. Why critics say the deal is dangerous. Plus, Jews and Christians from around the world come to Jerusalem for the biblical Feast of Tabernacles. Plus, anti-Semitism is on the rise on American college campuses. What's being done to fight it? And protests over a woman's death heat up in Iran. Can Elon Musk help protesters in their fight against the regime? All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Israel agreed to a U.S. brokered deal with Lebanon to explore oil and gas reserves in the Mediterranean Sea. While Prime Minister Yair Lapid calls the agreement a new prosperous era for longtime enemies, his critics strongly disagree. Israel's cabinet overwhelmingly approved the deal. Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid called the agreement historic and good for Israel and Lebanon.
This deal strengthens Israel's security and Israel's economy. We do not oppose the development of an additional Lebanese gas field, from which we will, of course, receive the share we deserve. Such a field will weaken Lebanon's dependence on Iran, restrain Hezbollah, and promote regional stability.
The driving force behind the agreement is the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken praised the deal.
It's going to benefit the region and ultimately benefit the entire world with very significant new energy sources coming to market in the years ahead. And it really advances President Biden's vision of a region that is peaceful, integrated, and prosperous.
It addresses a more than 10-year dispute between Lebanon and Israel over gas-rich waters in the Mediterranean. Lebanese-born analyst Tony Bedran counters that the U.S. essentially brokered a deal with the terror group Hezbollah.
It's the only meaningful actor in Lebanon. It is the most powerful demographically, it's the most powerful militarily, it's the most powerful financially, it's the group that's backed by state, Iran. It's the representative of Iran in Lebanon.
Bedran says Hezbollah basically got what it wanted.
Offers literally 100% of Hezbollah's demands and cuts out Israel entirely of the disputed area, and in fact even cuts into its territorial waters slightly by giving some of those to Hezbollah.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman tweeted about negotiations during the Trump administration. We spent years trying to broker a deal between Israel and Lebanon on the disputed maritime gas fields. Got very close with proposed splits of 55 to 60% for Lebanon and 45 to 40% for Israel. No one then imagined 100% to Lebanon and 0% to Israel. Would love to understand how we got here.
Now, finally, the Biden administration reached a breakthrough by insisting that Israel give up all of the disputed territory. So Israel is giving that up, as well as undisputed sovereign Israeli territorial waters. And under U.S. pressure, Israel is giving its sovereign maritime territory to Lebanon, an Iranian-backed state run by the Hezbollah terrorist militia.
Here in Israel, it's still unclear if this is a done deal. The current caretaker government is only weeks away from a national election, and former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to overturn and walk away from the agreement if he returns to power. Well, protests in Iran are continuing despite government crackdowns. Starlink, Elon Musk's satellite internet service, could help Iranian protesters in the fight against their brutal regime. That's why U.S. lawmakers are calling on the State Department to coordinate the effort on the ground. The plan could put protesters and their families in danger. Caitlin Burke reports.
At the end of September, the U.S. eased restrictions on internet services to counter the government's censorship. Elon Musk wants to take it one step further by providing Iranians with Starlink, his satellite internet service. While the satellites are now active over Iran, the internet signal won't be accessible until portable receivers can somehow be delivered on the ground.
In Ukraine, he pushed thousands of them, but obviously we had a government to work alongside. In Iran, we don't, but there are NGOs on the ground. We have covert means through various partnerships and routes that we can get these things in.
Congressman Mike Waltz believes the U.S. government should coordinate those efforts. He and Representative Maria Salazar recently wrote to Secretary of State Antony Blinken requesting the State Department get involved.
And liftoff of Starlink 435. I mean, this Starlink system can be an avenue for freedom and be an avenue to expose these regimes, whether it's cell phone videos being taken of their brutality or just people's message to their loved ones around the world that's trying to get out. I think we have a moral responsibility to help get these receivers in so that they can link up with the satellites and get these messages out.
The receivers would allow users to bypass firewalls put in place by the Iranian government and connect directly to satellite internet. Musk himself has warned, however, that there's significant risk involved. The signal can be easily tracked, which means Iran's security forces could locate users, shut them down, and arrest them. Still,
they are taking risks not to just themselves, but to their entire families, because these regimes crack down not just on the person daring to speak out, but their family, their village, their entire tribe. They're still willing to take those risks, and they're willing to fight for their freedom.
Waltz hopes the U.S. will agree to facilitate this public-private partnership. He worries, however, that the Biden administration may not want to rock the boat with the Islamic regime in order to complete a new Iran nuclear deal. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Israelis and Jews around the world are celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot in Hebrew, and thousands of Christians have come up to Jerusalem to join the celebration. This celebration is a gathering of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem, or ICEJ. After 2 years of limited tourism because of the COVID pandemic, over 2,000 Christians from more than 70 countries have come up to Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. The ICEJ has celebrated the feast for more than 40 years.
The Feast of Tabernacles is a fall harvest feast on the biblical calendar that also has a prophetic purpose hidden within it, and that is the second coming of the Lord. So we are here celebrating every year in anticipation of the coming of Jesus here to Jerusalem, and it's always this glorious celebration of Christians, the body of Christ from all over the world.
Sharon Haskell, a member of Israel's parliament, came to welcome the pilgrims and explain why their presence means so much.
The Jewish people throughout history didn't have many friends. They had a few, but not many. And to see thousands of people, Christians, leaders, and believers that are coming here to celebrate with us, people who are advocating for Israel. And it's important for me to show them that it's not taken for granted.
Haskell also mentioned in her message the prophetic fulfillment of the feast from the Hebrew Scriptures.
The prophet Zechariah spoke of a future time when all the nations would come to Jerusalem to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot. Look around you now. We are the living proof of the accuracy of the Bible and the truth of the Word of God.
These pilgrims from around the world say it's an amazing experience.
I think it's a miracle. Be here is a miracle, is different, is the promised land, and I'm so happy to be there.
It's like coming home, Chris. Such a privilege to come and take part in worshiping the King at the Feast of Tabernacles.
It's just awesome seeing people come together, especially people from different countries and different nations come together and worshiping God. It's a wonderful feeling.
One of the highlights of the Feast of Tabernacles is when Christians from around the world join Israelis for the annual Jerusalem March.
We love Israel! We love Israel!
What a joy to be here in Jerusalem. I'm telling you, to see the nations going up is a fulfillment of prophecy, and I just love it every time, and it's amazing to be back after 2 years.
We love Israel, a lot of Argentina, we love Israel, and we really pray for the peace in Jerusalem.
It's a dream come true. We are celebrating Yeshua, we are celebrating Israel. This is the land of the Lord. So hallelujah.
For Israelis, the Christian presence touches their hearts.
They came to here to support us. I don't have words to bring my happiness.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, but it's like the
vision is coming true.
Yeah, the vision from that we read just now on Shabbos in the Haftarah is coming true, that all the countries are coming to Israel and Sukkot.
It feels like a big hug. It really, really does. You know, we always feel so isolated in Israel, the little teeny tiny Jewish people. And to feel this hug from people from all over the world, it's really wonderful. And we appreciate every single person who's come.
Coming up, a fresh wave of anti-Semitism is brewing on American college campuses. Why Jewish students aren't feeling safe in their own classrooms. Purging Jews from campuses and classrooms, restricting pro-Israel speech, and demonizing Zionists. Anti-Semitic atrocities are taking place on American college campuses. Gary Lane reports on the breeding ground of anti-Semitism at the University of California, Berkeley.
Anti-Semitism is on the rise here in the United States, with hate crimes against Jews setting an all-time high last year. Most took the form of violent attacks and vandalism against synagogues and Jewish temples. This week on Capitol Hill, congressmen expressed concerns about a new wave of anti-Semitism infecting young American adults.
The substitution of the word Zionist for Jew has become the modus operandi of a new insidious strain of anti-Semitism that has taken hold in college campuses and on social media platforms.
During public demonstrations like this one, pro-Palestinian protesters call for Jews to be purged from college campuses and classrooms. And critics say that's exactly what has happened at the University of California, Berkeley, where some students have attempted to restrict pro-Israel speech. Berkeley Law School Dean Erwin Chemerinsky says a rash of media reports about Jewish-free zones are not true. He says only a handful of student organizations, fewer than 10 out of 100, have adopted anti-Israel bylaws, which include a ban against pro-Israel speakers. Berkeley Law School graduate Kenneth Marcus is founder and chairman of the Louis Brandeis Center for Human Rights. He calls Chemerinsky's response outrageous.
What if there had been any other context in which any other group was shut out of opportunities? Would a law school dean in the 21st century say, not to worry, it's okay to have 9 segregated areas, just so long as we have many other areas that aren't segregated?
Appearing on the CBN News program The Global Lane, Marcus described the speech ban as utterly absurd, ridiculous, and inconsistent with American law. So is this speech ban anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, or just anti-Israel?
Well, it's all of those. Pick your poison. To begin with, it is a method of silencing one side of a political debate. It is a way of saying we should not permit anyone to participate in a discussion on campus if they are pro-Israel.
American Jewish leaders fear what has started in California may easily spread to other parts of the country. Marcus says Jewish students are already being marginalized and excluded on other college campuses because of the Zionist aspect of their Jewish identity. Students at Rutgers University recently saw their fraternity house egged on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year.
We're seeing a general effort to marginalize and exclude the Jewish community, to create the notion that Jews and the Jewish community and establishment are simply not a normal part of life on college and university campuses. What's happening at Berkeley Law now is in some respects unique, but in some respects it is simply the latest in what is clearly a nationwide trend, and an ugly one.
And concerned leaders like Marcus and Congressman Torres believe only by standing up and speaking out can Americans reverse the growing tide of American anti-Semitism. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Up next, modern art gets an ancient twist in the Holy City. Ancient biblical sites often attract the most attention from visitors to the Holy Land. There's now a move among some Israelis to build interest in the modern by making a connection to the ancient. CBN News correspondent Julie Stahl shows us how one artist is making that happen.
You're looking at what's called archaeology, the first art exhibit in an active archaeological site. In Jerusalem, sometimes the best stories are found underground. Here, next to the ancient stones of the Temple Mount, an art exhibit links the past with the present.
I had this idea of putting my pieces in like a cave, something that would connect it to ancient archaeology and to the past, because it's the works that I make are inspired all from ancient history, ancient Egyptian, ancient Etruscan, ancient Israelite.
Artist Nicole Kornberg-Jacobovici says most of her work relates to the Middle to Late Bronze Age, looking back some 3,000 years.
Dr. Yuval Baruch had an idea, an amazing idea, to place the pieces, the art pieces that he had seen in the site where he's working, which is an old water cistern dating from the time of the first temple.
Dr. Yuval Baruch of the Israel Antiquities Authority says the organization is excavating here very close to the Western Wall foundations.
And one of the questions that I ask myself, and when I say ask myself daily, is how to build a bridge between the people and the ruins.
Baruch says when he saw Nicole's art, it sparked an idea of going beyond guided tours and museums to connect people to archaeology.
I understand that art is also another language that can allow us to build this bridge.
And the fact that her art is ceramic is even more significant.
When we excavated, what the most things we found is the sherds. And the shirt for us is like letters. From these letters, we can understand the period, understand the date, we can understand for what this place used, if it is a dwelling house or maybe a palace.
Archaeologist and art historian Irit Ziffer says the clay connection goes back even further.
Oh, material is clay, it's mud from the earth. And this is what man was made of. The first man, the first Adam, was made out of clay. It was a figurine into which God breathed life.
Ziffer is curator of the exhibit.
Really was amazed by is Nicole's versatile ways in dealing with clay. She's a takeoff on the ancient things, but she doesn't do ancient things. She does contemporary art.
Some of Nicole's artwork includes a piece with fish inspired by the story of Jonah.
So the blue one is a reference to the Nile, ancient Nile, the place where Moses was found, and then the story preceding the story of the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt. The blue plate is a reference to the tree of life. It's got birds and flowers. It's imagining what it would have looked like.
And a special stamp like ancient leaders would have used to stamp their names and tell their stories. This one rolls out the story of Joseph's dreams. While this current exhibit is temporary, there are plans for a traveling exhibit to help connect the Bible to modern times through art around the world. Julie Stahl, CBN News, near the Western Wall Foundations, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, Jewish priests flock to the Western Wall to bless the nation of Israel. Thousands of Israelis and Jewish pilgrims from around the world packed the Western Wall Plaza as part of the Sukkot holiday. As CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl tells us, they came to participate in an ancient biblical tradition.
For the first time since the COVID lockdowns, masses of Jewish people streamed through Jerusalem's old city streets to reach the Western Wall. About 50,000 came to take part in the Birkat HaKohanim, or priestly blessing.
Today is an amazing day. It's the holiday of Sukkot, a holiday actually that came to us in the desert.
In the book of Numbers, God gives Moses and Aaron these words to bless the children of Israel. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. While the Aaronic benediction or blessing is a daily part of Jewish prayers, this public tradition happens twice a year during Sukkot and Passover.
It's one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals that we're actually called to go up on foot to ascend to the temple in the days it existed. Now we only have the Kotel, the western wall, remaining from the temple. We're keeping the holiday that was on foot.
Jewish men believed to be part of the priestly line, known as Kohanim, come to bless the people of Israel. Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman was among those who blessed the people.
The priests in the temple received the job to bless the people of Israel. Today, actually, they're gathering together thousands of Kohanim here to bless all the people of Israel.
In 2020, many Christians worldwide became more acquainted with the blessing during COVID when international artists translated and sang the Carrie Job and Cody Carnes version of this song over their nations. Another part of the prayers comes from Leviticus 23, where it says to bring the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and rejoice before the Lord. That's why you see branches waved from the palm, willow, and myrtle trees, as well as the citron. And the more that come to bless and be blessed, the better. Julie Stahl, CBN News, the Western Wall, Jerusalem.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blast so you can continue to receive all of our exciting CBN content. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.